Welcome back into that Sean podcast. Is I, the big us, keeping it chill like usual. Is he, the cat daddy, out here triggering people? Cat daddy, what's on your mind?
Man, we continue to recap and cover an offseason that hits harder than Will Smith. Last week, I thought the NFL offseason was finished blowing our minds. This past week, the NFL said, here, hold my beer, because we saw another big wide receiver get traded and receive a subsequent extension. We saw the Packers sign Snoop Dogg's nephew. We saw the Vikings try and morph into the Green Bay Packers. And the NFL developed a love fest with the Detroit Lions. I don't quite get it, but the only way this offseason gets any crazier is if Kyler Murray gets traded or Tom Brady gets traded. I think that's the only way it gets much wilder.
Well, there's some rumors out there that DK Metcalf is a target of the Jets, so we'll have to keep a monitor on that. But let's get right into it. The Tyreek Hill trade. I'm not going to speak my mind on my opinion of the man because that's not the type of pod we have. Let's just say it's not favorable. But in terms of the trade, I thought it was a bit much, personally. I mean, I think Tyreek Hill is an amazing talent, but I thought that was a bit much to give up. And Green Bay's got to be feeling like, in the backside there, considering what they gave up or what they got back and what KC got back and the caliber of player that each dude is. I mean, that just doesn't seem fair. What's going on here, Cat Daddy?
The Chiefs send Tyreek Hill to the Dolphins in exchange for a first, second, and fourth round pick in 22. And a fourth and a sixth round pick in 23. Now, when I saw that at first, I'm like, wait. Don't tell me Green Bay got robbed in their trade of Adams, only getting a first and a second. Only getting a first and a second. But I think those day 3 picks were added in to make that trade a little bit better because the first round pick that the Chiefs ended up getting was number 30. Green Bay got 22. Are 2 fourths and a sixth worth 8 spots in the first rounds?
Maybe.
I think so. I like, after letting it simmer for a little while, I liked the value that Green Bay got because they had a better first round pick.
And a better second round pick.
That's pretty valuable. Second round, I think Kansas City got better in the second round. I thought they did.
Maybe. Because, I know the Dolphins had a late second round pick also.
Yeah, I don't think they traded their own, though. I think they may have traded they traded their own, not San Francisco, so I think it was better.
Well, we'll see on that. In terms of what it does 2 things. We'll talk about Miami first. Sorry. So, what I've been doing since that time is battling people on this Tua slander. I want to know where this comes from. Because everybody's like, his arm strength, he can't throw that far. Throw what far? He threw plenty of far when he was at Alabama. I mean, where does this nonsense come from where he can't make the throws? Because, that was not the narrative on him coming out of Alabama. Is it because of the offense that was ran in Miami? Well, you can blame the nonsense before him for that, which I know you and me both complained about all last season. I don't think that was Tua's fault because every time they did go downfield, they were fairly successful.
They were. I think some of the concerns for Tua, or at least the criticisms, are more involved with not he can't throw far, but the amount of velocity he has in those passes. And I think the second part is he's more of an accurate passer, so he relies on spots, and it's easier to get players open in the college game than it is the NFL level. I think that may be where some of the criticism comes in.
Now, that being said,
he just can't throw people open like he used to.
Now that being said, who cares? Because everybody's like, well, he can't hit Tyreek Hill downfield. Why does he have to?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Tyreek Hill, you get Jalen Waddle, you throw short, you throw intermediate passes, and you turn it into a track meet. You force the defenders to tackle your guys.
What was one of the best
Boom.
plays in the playoffs from Tyreek Hill? I can't remember. I think it was against the Bengals, where he got the ball and he got the ball over the middle about what was it, 10, 15 yards downfield, and he outran the entire defense across the field and up.
Well, that's his specialty. His specialty is speed.
I remember the play. What was it about? I think it was like 6 years ago now against the Cowboys. It was right before halftime. And the Cowboys were trouncing the Chiefs at the time. They weren't as good as they are now because they had Alex Smith there. But Tyreek Hill gets it, and he basically jukes out the entire Cowboys special teams. You don't need to have him downfield and have Patrick Mahomes send an 80-yard bomb for Tyreek Hill to be effective. Even with that, what is Tyreek Hill best at? The scramble drill. Tyreek Hill will know where he needs to be so Tua can get the ball to him downfield. Stop it. Stop the noise. If you want to worry about something with Tua, if you want to bring up the health concern, I'm here with you. But don't sit here and act like the boy can't play.
I think this is a massive move for Miami and for Tua, because you're thinking they're literally giving Tua everything he needs to succeed.
I mean, this is what teams are supposed to do, right?
I mean, this is a lot that they're doing for him, though. Hey, we're going to change our coach. We're going to get you an offensive-minded head coach. We're going to give you 2 new running backs, Chase Edmonds and Raheem Mostert.
Upgrades.
We're going to give you 2 wide receivers through free agency. We're going to give you Cedric Wilson, Trent Sherfield. We're going to give you 2 offensive linemen, Teron Armstead and Connor Williams. You already had Jalen Williams or Waddle. You already had Mike Gesicki on the roster.
Devontae
and
Parker's
now
still there.
Right? He's getting pushed down and maybe pushed out, and then now you give him Tyreek Hill. There is no reason for Tua not to be able to succeed this year.
No, I agree, but is this not what a team is supposed to do?
You'd think that they would do it over a period of time, not all just, hey, here's one off season of everything that you need. Get it done this season. That's it.
Hey, they've got a defense
better
they
late
think
than
they
never.
can win with. Let's just get, and I mean, let's be honest. Miami's not in a bad position. They still got 2 first-round picks next year.
Yeah, and part of me's thinking, if Tua doesn't get it done this season, what does that look like for next year?
Those 2 first-round picks are going to come in handy.
They will. I think that they would end up drafting a quarterback in round 1, possibly even trading up to a higher spot to draft a quarterback if Tua doesn't get them to the playoffs.
And if Tua does work out, now you're cooking with grease.
Absolutely. Just short intermediate passes.
But I mean,
you got Waddle, you got Hill.
This is the stuff I talk about, team building. This is how you do it. You have a young quarterback that you drafted high, that, something, he hasn't taken fully the next step. Now, me and you both, I know you had some reservations on Armstead, but me and you both can agree that the Dolphins have been better with Tua in the lineup than without. I know you like Jalen Waddle's numbers with 2 in the lineup.
Volume that Jalen Waddle gets. I don't like the 8 yards per reception that he has.
But is that Tua's fault, or is that the dual offensive coordinators from the last regime?
We're going to find out really soon.
I honestly see this more as I can see them giving Waddle more of that almost was a Deebo Samuels type treatment. Maybe even getting some running plays for Waddle right there.
I mean, they have enough speed between the 2 of them that they could use either of them in a Deebo role.
Well, I'm seeing Hill more as an Ayuk role.
It's either way. It's going to be good
fun.
for the offense.
It's going to be fun to see what happens.
It's going to be, Yeah, defenses now have to choose. Do you want to double team Tyreek Hill? Do you want to double team Jalen Waddle?
Do you think?
And then whoever you double team, the other gets single teamed. You're likely single teaming Devontae Parker, Cedric Wilson, Mike Gesicki.
You think Bill Belichick is kind of regretting letting J.C. Jackson just walk out the door?
Probably. He's probably sitting there thinking, man, I really should have paid him.
No.
I didn't know I was getting Tyreek Hill in my division.
Now, there is a second part to this trade. Yes, KC gets a lot of ammunition. Unfortunately, some of that ammunition's at the end of the first round. They still could get, I mean, this is a deep wide receiver draft, but this hurts Kansas City considering what the other teams in the division have done. If this was the same old AFC West, I'd say Kansas City's fine. They'll draft somebody, they'll develop them. But considering what the rest of the teams have done, you know, the Raiders, they bring in Devontae Adams, which is just going to help their offense. They bring in Chandler Jones, which is just going to help their defense. Rocky Sin should help out that cornerback room, which actually had some pretty good players on there with Trayvon. I think it's Trayvon Mullen. And it's who's the rookie last year?
Trayvon Merrick.
No, Trayvon Mullen, I believe too. The corner out of Clemson.
Yes, and then Trayvon Merrick was a rookie.
Right, Trayvon Merrick, who's really good also. Jonathan Abrams actually started to look better. And who's the other rookie from last year who showed out? Nate Hobbs?
Yeah.
So, I mean, the Raiders aren't looking terrible right here, you know, with Max Crosby and them up front. Then you've got the Denver.
No, and then they get Jayon Brown.
Oh, yeah,
they signed him from Tennessee, so that's adding to their linebackers. He's good in coverage.
Then you got the Denver Broncos, who trade for Russell Wilson, automatically making them a legitimate contender. They got your boy, my boy, cornerback 1, PS2. Out there in the secondary. They add Randy Gregory with a healthy Bradley Chubb. They add in DJ Jones. So I mean, this team also has some prime stuff. Look at the weapons on this team. You get Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, Tim Patrick. You know, and then I mean, look at what the Los Angeles Chargers have done. Their offense was already potent, where they were already going toe-to-toe with KC. And then on defense, they had Khalil Mack and J.C. Jackson. Oh my goodness. I mean,
it's either going to be really high-scoring games or really low-scoring games.
I mean, how do you feel about this? If you were Andy Reid, would you be as confident as you were in the past?
Looking at their defense last year and what they're carrying over to this season, I think losing Tyrann Mathieu is going to be I would think it's a bigger impact losing him.
I know they added
so that's hurting
Justin
their defense.
Reed, but I don't think he has the instincts that Tyrann Mathieu has had.
No, I'd prefer Mathieu in that case. Offensively, they got rid of Tyreek Hill. They signed Juju Smith-Schuster. They signed Marquez Valdes-Scantling. I don't know if either of them can take on the wide receiver 1 role, but your wide receiver 1 is Travis Kelce.
Yes.
Who do they pick up?
They still need something else.
They got Ronald Jones.
Again,
up.
What do I care?
I know. But
good for Ronald Jones. I mean, I'm always, but in terms of moving the needle, he doesn't do much.
But then you have to factor in that Andy Reid is an offensive genius.
I get that. I remember the ones of the Todd Pinkney or whatever his name was.
Todd Pinkston. Yes.
Pinkston. I remember those
Freddie
days.
Alligator Arm Mitchell. Yeah.
I remember those days. But I bet you money he's gonna miss his easy button.
Oh, absolutely. But there's been rumors going around that Kansas City is looking to add a top wide receiver.
Yep.
And one of the names that's being mentioned is DK Metcalf.
I'm also hearing in
the
draft,
whether that's smoke fire,
they really like a raw, speedy wide receiver. out of a small school, North Dakota State.
Well, I'm glad that right now, at least for the moment, Green Bay has both of their picks before both of Kansas City's picks, because Kansas City is sitting at 29 and 30, but that could be some good ammunition to trade up ahead of a wide receiver needy team like the Packers, which kind of concerns me, because they could take a guy that the Packers want to take.
They'd have to move up a lot because those Packers need to use that number 22 pick. Anyways.
Yeah, I mean, you're thinking 29 and 30, you could easily jump ahead. You can jump to 21 or better. I mean, Philadelphia's got 3 picks. They can trade the 3rd pick.
Anyways,
trade back for 2 more. Yeah,
I got some
scenarios.
Hot button topics that I'd like to get into. My first hot button topic. So there's this thing with wide receivers recently. We've had a lot of wide receivers that were, big time wide receivers in the game either being released, a la Jarvis Landry or Julio Jones, or being traded, a la Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill, even Amari Cooper. Now, I mean, your opinion here, is this due to the fact of these teams having established quarterbacks and these other teams maybe having quarterbacks that need a little bit more help, David Carr the exception? Or is this due to the age of the wide receivers and the fact that the other teams may think, with an established quarterback, we can bring in a younger receiver and get that near same production for a much cheaper? What is your opinion on this? Why would these teams trade away the value that these wide receivers give to them? I mean, is the NFL changed and these new wide receivers coming in developing faster?
I think it's more of the latter. It's these wide receivers are becoming expensive. What was a holdup with Devontae Adams in Green Bay? They weren't paying him like he wanted to be paid, and he got paid, what was it, $28 million a year?
Right.
Plus or minus. Tyreek Hill just signed his extension with the Dolphins, 4 years, $120 million. So on paper, it's $30 million per year. That is a ridiculous high amount to be paying a wide receiver. And when NFL teams are thinking of this, they're thinking, okay, well, our quarterback is floor $30 million. I mean, in the case of Green Bay, it was, I think Rodgers' cap hit is 28 this year, and Patrick Mahomes is 40, I think, or in the 40s. You're thinking, man, we can't add another 28 or another 30 on top of that, because then we're going to have over $50 million going to just 2 players, and that leaves 150 left for the remaining 51 players on our roster, or 50 players on a roster. It's a ridiculous amount, and they're looking at this talent that's coming in the draft, and they're thinking, okay, well, if we want a fast receiver, there's a whole lot of guys who ran sub 4.4 at the combine and pro days. They showed.
And wide receivers have been developing fast. Jamar Chase,
yeah, past couple of years.
Justin Jefferson. I mean,
you may not get. You're thinking Devontae Adams was round 2. Tyreek Hill was round 4-ish. I'd have to go back and check that, but neither of them were taken in round 1. So are you going to get the same production as a Devontae Adams or a Tyreek Hill could give you? No, you're not going to get the same production. But when you're factoring in value based on productivity and cost, you're getting a better value with a rookie wide receiver.
But at the same time, do you know you're not getting that? Justin Jefferson. When was Justin Jefferson taken?
Was it 21? 22?
Near that range. Yeah. So you don't know. Some of these receivers might be able to produce right away, because I can't say Jamar Chase, he was a top 5 pick.
You're right. It's the team as the offense are going to, and I have no concerns about a rookie wide receiver going to Green Bay or Kansas City. And hey, I have to play with a former MVP. Oh darn, not my rookie season. That's horrible. Even Justin Jefferson did well with Kirk Cousins, because Kirk Cousins is an underrated passer.
Well, even with that, look what Rashad Bateman did when he got on the field.
Yeah, and that's how many games were with Lamar Jackson.
Look what Ayuk did in his rookie year, and look what Ayuk did last year. when like they got him the ball actually. Like, I mean, look at what these receivers have been doing when they've been getting them the ball. So, I mean, it's not out of the question. And then you talk about third rounders, third rounders, DK Metcalf, AJ Brown, Terry McLaurin. Cameo.
Yeah, there's a lot of value. Green Bay has had a lot of success with second round wide receivers.
So, I mean,
I think Randall Cobb, Jordy Nelson, Devontae Adams, and
it's not outside the realm.
And you're not trying to fill the productivity of Devontae Adams and Tyreek Hill in one single player, because really you would need Devontae Adams or Tyreek Hill to do that. But maybe that productivity is spread across a few players, and those few players will come in at a cheaper cost than Devontae Adams and Tyreek Hill will.
So I've got one more segment before we get to a really fun segment. We got 2 more segments for today. My next segment, this one's really fun. I've got several teams I'm looking at, but in your opinion, what team has the worst roster overall in the NFL?
At this very moment, before the draft?
Yes. I know who I think it is. I know exactly who I think it is, and I predicted it, and I'm not trying to relish in their, let's say, disaster, but I will say I told you so. But you go ahead and let me know.
All right. How many teams do you want me to give you?
I'm going to give you 3 guesses.
3 guesses?
3 guesses.
All right.
Give me your top 3, and then
who have the worst roster?
Worst rosters in the NFL right now. Actually, make it 5.
Overall.
Make it 5. Give me your 5. Give me your 5.
Man. All right. Houston.
Houston's on my list, but they're not the worst.
Atlanta
is the worst. You got it on your second go. Atlanta has by far the worst roster in the NFL, in my opinion. Other than Kyle Pitts, which is a tight end. Name their pass catcher.
Cordero Patterson. That's as close as you're getting.
Well, what's the guy's name? I can't even pronounce his name. Their top wide receiver. And then, Cordero Patterson. Like, they don't even have a true running back. Quarterback, Marcus Mariota. A guy who has not started in how long?
He's been, 2 years at least?
This team literally has 2 things fully going for it, because that offensive line, much to be desired. They have Grady Jarrett and AJ Terrell.
Yep. I was going to say
and Kyle Pitts. Sure. They've got literally 3 players I can name that they can build on. Nothing else.
Yeah, that is rough for Arthur Smith, Arthur Blank.
But I told you this was going to happen. This is bad team building. No offense to Kyle Pitts. He's an amazing talent. But they should have burnt this thing down last year. Traded Matt Ryan last year. And you can even trade Julio Jones if you want last year, and let whoever you pick at quarterback, let it be Mac Jones or Justin Fields. I would have went with Justin Fields and tell him it's going to be a rough year, bro. And take a wide receiver later, and then be set up with picks, because you can even trade Matt Ryan and Julio Jones for future picks. Set up with picks in this draft to get some talent in there to help your quarterback, just like Miami did.
I think the optimism that Atlanta had last offseason this time is significantly different from the optimism they have this time of year.
But at the same time, they were missing the I forgot the actual line that you say, but the vision of foresight. Some of us, there's some people, not to name any names, that predicted this happening.
It was shadow. You're right.
I'm just saying. This is the thing. This is why I'm not going to poo-poo on what Seattle's done. If you're going to do it, if you think this is where you're headed, blow it up. Blow it up. and start afresh. Atlanta was in a worse situation than Seattle, and they thought, "Oh man, we got a rookie head coach. Let's try to run this thing. Arthur Smith. Let's try to make this happen. You ain't got Derrick Henry here, but let's try to make this happen." There was the perfect opportunity with a rookie head coach to blow it up. And they did not.
The defense, we knew the defense was a huge liability for them.
I see you sitting there. I see the wheels turning over there, trying to find some optimism here. It looks painful, my guy.
The Colts are of the mindset we're a quarterback away from getting to the playoffs.
But the Colts actually do have a pretty good roster.
They do. But the mindset's there. Hey, we're just a quarterback away. We can do this. Atlanta is probably thinking, hey, we're just one offensive playmaker away. We have Calvin Ridley. We have Cordero Patterson. We just traded Julio Jones. We're one offensive playmaker away.
Did they forget that their defense is bad?
Yes.
But
at the number 4 pick, who, looking back at this time last year, who would you have taken defensively at number 4?
At number 4 last year?
Mm-hmm.
I would.
It would hard to be say anybody exactly.
But
and if nobody
I already told you who I would have picked. That's the thing. I've already. All right. Moving on from Atlanta, let's go to the number 2 team that I think has the worst roster in the NFL. And you said Houston. I still don't think Houston has the number 2 worst roster in the NFL. I think they're number 3. So you know where I'm going with number 2. Number 2 made a lot of moves that did absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. What a way to spend a lot of money and stay mediocre, Jacksonville.
They spent a lot of money on
nothing.
Mid-tier? I mean, not Brandon Sharp. He's
good.
He's high,
but
quality.
He's older and he's got injury issues.
Nah, he deserves to get paid, but he's getting paid. I can see that one. I have no problem with
that. I'm mad at him. Not mad at him at all.
No, but you're thinking defensively, I thought those acquisitions were questionable. The amount of money that they paid for what they're going to be getting in return, it's like they got nervous and they were afraid and like, hey, we have to go out and get all these guys before anybody else does. And we're just... and they got Kirk, yes.
Hey, tilt your camera to the right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right there. You're good.
There we go.
All right, yep. And then the other team, another team in the top 3 would be Houston. It's not Lovie Smith's fault. It's not David. It's not even their current GM's fault. This is Bill O'Brien's fault. He ruined this team for years to come.
Yeah, they're still recovering.
We knew that he ruined this team for years to come. And we'll see what happens. Davis Mills could be a shining spot here. If he turns out to develop and be a long-term answer at QB, this helps them immensely. That means they can use these future picks, on building up talent around them.
Yeah, Houston is in no position to go out and spend big money in free agency. They're in no position to do it. They need to acquire the young talent, the foundations of their franchise. And then once you have those pieces, start to build around those players.
Right.
So next year, I think they'll be heavier in free agency. But
now,
they can just trade Brandon Cooks to Green Bay. I'd be happy.
My number 4 team was very close to being the number 3 team. Can you take a guess which team this is?
I'm guessing either the Jets or the Bears.
It is the Chicago Bears. Talk about, they do have some good defensive players, but on their offense, the cupboard is bare. I feel bad for Justin Fields because I genuinely want Justin Fields to succeed, but he is in no position to succeed with this team.
It's going to be tough.
It's going to be very difficult.
It's going to be, I think it's similar to Houston, where I don't think spending big money this offseason is going to be good for them. They kind of have to erase themselves of everything that Ryan Pace did for the past,
honestly,
however many years he was in position.
I had a conversation with a Bear fan buddy of ours, and I told him, I was like, you guys need to just forget the defense this year. Just forget it. Draft nothing but offense. Do not destroy your young quarterback. This is one of the worst things I see teams do. Once you build up your offense, yes, you can go back and try to do defense. But right now, adding to that defense, non-starter for me.
Offensive line, they need to protect Justin Fields.
And weapons.
He has Darnell Mooney. He has Cole Kmet. He has David Montgomery. Tyre Cohen's coming back, depending on how the offense is going to use him. So some of those pieces are already there, but the offensive line, Tevin Jenkins,
number 2 at best.
What's that?
Darnell Mooney is a number 2 at best.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with that one, but at least he's a wide receiver with starter caliber.
Yeah, he's something.
Yeah, he is. So I would invest a lot early in the offensive line, but they don't have a first-round pick this year because they traded with New York. Otherwise, they would have the 7th pick.
And my number 5 team would actually be Detroit over the Jets. I think the Jets actually have some decent pieces. Detroit, I'm still worried about. That being said, we're going to move on to the last segment, a fun segment. So, there's been some speculation that all the quarterback movement this past offseason has to do with this quarterback class. And I say that's nonsense. My opinion is you don't make long-term moves because of short-term reasons. Yes, some teams do need certain things because maybe they don't believe in this QB class. But you don't trade for Russell. You don't trade a bunch of first-round picks for Russell Wilson because you don't believe in the quarterback class. You trade a bunch of picks for Russell Wilson because he's Russell frickin' Wilson.
Well, Denver is a special situation because they always think they're a quarterback away. And for the most part, they're true. That's an accurate statement. But Denver is in the process of trying to find someone to buy their franchise new ownership. And what's going to help them get a better buyer? A rookie quarterback who, we've called this class questionable for the quarterbacks. Or do you want a Super Bowl winner?
No.
What's going to help you with the sale of your franchise? I think Super Bowl winner gets you over the top.
Now, that being said, the most bonehead team that made a quarterback move this offseason, I would say, would be those Washington Commanders. Because they went really quick and gave up way too much for Carson Wentz, when they probably could have gave up that same amount of stuff for, let's say, Baker Mayfield, and probably got better on field. We'll see, but I think Baker on field has been better than Carson Wentz the last 2 seasons, and last year Baker was injured and even better than Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz was near unplayable the second half of last season.
It was bad.
It was very bad.
It was like Sam Darnold level.
Like Baker, I'm just saying, say what you want to say about Baker, but Baker was injured and looked better than Sam Darnold. I'm not saying, Sam Darnold and Carson Wentz. But I mean, you see what the Colts got from Matt Ryan, and I get the move. The move just doesn't move the needle for me because Matt Ryan's not a long-term answer.
No, and a lot of these quarterbacks are not, and that might be the part that plays into why they're making these moves instead of going after a rookie quarterback. Because, for example, Marcus Mariota was signed to a 2-year deal, which is really just a 1-year deal with an easy out in year 2.
But Marcus Mariota makes sense. That makes sense to me. They didn't move
right,
any.
But but he's not the long-term answer.
Right, but they didn't move any assets to make it happen. They signed him to a manageable deal. So Atlanta would be in line to possibly draft a quarterback this year or maybe next year. It wouldn't surprise me if Atlanta, Pittsburgh, New Orleans, if any of these teams, if any of these quarterbacks fell, drafted one of them because they set themselves up in good positions to. But teams like Indy, no freaking way. Well, they don't even have the first round pick, and even in the second round, I don't see it happening. Other teams like Washington, no freaking way. You gave up too many assets to get Carson Wentz.
You don't think Washington would be foolish enough to draft a quarterback, number 11?
I'm trying to be nice to them. I'm trying to be very nice to them. But I mean, you agree that that's poor team building, right?
I wouldn't build my team. Wouldn't do that.
Right. But you get what I'm saying. These other teams, like Atlanta, I get them rushing. That was one of the only good moves that they did. Trading for Baker would have done nothing for Atlanta.
No.
Trading for Jimmy G would do nothing for Atlanta. Which brings me to my next question. Why in God's green earth did the San Francisco 49ers give up all those many assets to trade up to third overall to pick Trey Lance, to this offseason, Kyle Shanahan saying, I'm not going to announce a starter? This is stupid. Okay?
If we take a step back and look like really high level over what happened for this past year, San Francisco trades up to number 3. They play Jimmy Garoppolo during the season. He received a lot of criticism. After the season, John Lynch says he's going to trade Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy Garoppolo says he's going to be traded. And here we are, less than a month away from the draft. And Jimmy Garoppolo not only is on the roster, but he could possibly be the week 1 starter.
Well, here's the problem. One, from what I'm hearing, the shoulder surgery delayed trade talks. 2, I hear that San Francisco wanted quite a bit, which they weren't going to get, as we see. With this said, Jimmy Garoppolo is not fantastic. He is serviceable, and he can be real good at times, and he can be really bad at times. I'm sorry. You do not. This is bad. This is going to hurt this franchise. It hasn't yet. Doing this stupid stuff in the first round. They've gotten really lucky like the Seattle Seahawks used to. Well, as we've seen with the Seattle Seahawks, these moves where you're wasting first round pick, you're wasting premium talent, come back to bite you. It's just like you said with the Green Bay Packers when they traded up for Jordan Love. No matter how you feel about the player Jordan Love, you don't do that. Doesn't matter. You just don't do that when you have Aaron Rodgers on your roster. Now, if it's Jimmy G, I bet you'd have no problem with that move, but you'd want them to move Jimmy G. And this is the problem.
I think
here.
what hurts Jimmy G is he's a game manager who really needs to be in a run-first offense, because we saw how well or not well he throws the ball and the decision-making that he has. And I think that San Francisco is a very friendly offense for him. And I think part of the problem is, what playoff contender is going to trade for Jimmy Garoppolo, who is a run-heavy team? Could it be...
These teams need to take their lumps on the chin, though. If you have this quarterback, don't waste it. Take your lumps on the chin, and then with how this NFL works, move on when you have to move on. But this guy's not going to sit here and develop on the bench, as we've seen with Jordan Love.
No, he's not. But the other part might be Trey Lance may not be as far along in development as they hoped he would be at this point.
Then they shouldn't have played him last year. I'm sorry. If someone's not ready, you need another backup on the team so that player doesn't play.
Again, no disagreement here. I
remember they had that situation last year where Jimmy G was healthy and Trey Lance was still playing ahead of him. How San Francisco made the NFC Championship game is beyond me for how badly they mismanaged. Defense.
Same reason like Trent Dilfer gets to a Super Bowl. Eli Manning gets to a Super Bowl. Defense.
Poor management here. But that's all we have here for this week. Cat Daddy, anything to add?
Well, we got one more topic.
What's that?
We got one more.
What's that?
The NFL owners meeting is happening this week. And guess what? The owners approved a modified overtime rule, which is for the postseason use only. How do we forget about this?
It moves the needle nowhere for me. I don't care.
No. So the rule is both teams will now have an opportunity to possess the ball in overtime.
Whoop-de-doo.
Again, this is only for the postseason. Regular season overtime rules stay the same.
Whoop-de-doo.
But why are we making adjustments to it? Because what happens after those two possessions? That means another team gets the ball back. And what if they score right away on that third possession? Now you're like, well, shouldn't the other team get a second possession?
Here's what I think should happen.
It's ridiculous. You say what you think should happen. I'll say what I think should happen.
We were having this discussion earlier, and I thought about it. We need a hockey-type system. We need a system where it's like sudden death. Some sort of sudden death system where it's mano y mano.
I like how traditional Mike Tomlin thinks. Sudden death approach. Hey, I'm good with it. So am I. Stop changing overtime. If you want to make changes,
or
here's what you do. You get rid of overtime in the regular season because you care about player safety, right, NFL?
No, I got one for you.
You return to sudden death overtime because defense and special teams do matter in football. It's not always just about the offense. And you get rid of the overtime coin toss because I think the home team gets to choose what they would like to do because that's going to create the ultimate home field advantage. And all of this is coming from a Packer fan whose team has lost in the playoffs at least twice in the past decade in overtime when their team didn't get the ball. I'm okay with sudden death. Packers lost twice. I'm fine with it.
I got it. And you're going to hate it.
Don't tell me you're going to have kickers line up and do a kickoff.
Kickoff. We kick until the kickers miss.
Well, Cincinnati would be a winner with Evan McPherson.
Basically,
Green Bay would be questionable with Mason Crosby.
We keep moving it back until we get to a 55-yard field goal.
Oh, that'd be the equivalent of a baseball game not going to extra innings, but instead being decided by a home run derby, which would be kind of fun, though.
No, well, I'm telling you, it's the same thing as a shootout in hockey, only with kickers.
Hey, kickers can finally earn their money.
Exactly. Any words of wisdom?
No.
I'm going to go with an oldie but a goodie. Kickers are people too.
You sure?
That's what I hear.